Welcome back. You are still tuned in to Funtastic Fridays, and we're here with you every Friday on all the Friday them Win a Name Friday from 5 p.m. till 8 p.m. And from you hear that song, you know what time it is. It is time for Talk the Ting with Kim. And this is our discussion segment. Big up J Dominique on the live, dropping some flames. It's a good thing we have some fire extinguisher nearby, just in case things get a bit too heated, right? But guys, as I said earlier, we'll be discussing toxic parenting, and this discussion is an ongoing discussion from one that we started last week. We had part 1, so in the event that you missed it, just know that every single Talk the Ting with Kim episode is recorded and it is shared on our YouTube channel, right? So just go onto YouTube and we have a whole lot of gems in there for you. But as I said, toxic parenting, and this was a topic that was requested from one of our listeners. So Sean, big up you. He said he wanted us to discuss toxic parenting, and I thought it's perfect for the month because it's Child's Month. Mother's Day happened 2 weeks ago, and that's not something that we really talk about. Everybody talk about toxic relationship when it comes to romance. Yes. You have a toxic ex and your toxic boyfriend or your toxic wife, all them something there, but we don't talk about toxic parenting, right? So last week what we did, we highlighted some scenarios, and basically it was just to give everybody a chance to reflect on if you are a parent, if you have exhibited some of these traits, then you may need to consider you're somewhat of a toxic parent, right? And then if it is that we're all children to somebody, we may also have been victims of it. So I just wanted us to look into it and reflect and see if there's things that we probably never even call toxic until we hear it, last week, right? And there are things that, especially as a Jamaican culture, we little pick on each other and nickname and on them something there. Say them something that's toxic too. Yeah, man. Because it does affect self-esteem in the children, right? So, guys, I tell you, it's a hot topic. All right, Sean, don't worry about it. Every week we have giveaways. So even if it is that you didn't win any credit this week, we usually have it every week, and we will also have it on the Instagram page. We always have giveaways there, all right? So as I said, last week we spoke about some experiences. Now I want to go into signs of a toxic parent, right? Or the types as well. But before we get into that, the term toxic parent, I gave you guys a definition last week, and I give you a slightly different one this week because there's various definitions to it. As I said, guys, it's a vast topic. It's huge. I don't even think we can go into even half of the information on air, right? And don't worry about it. Next week we're going to have a specialist to talk about it. So this is the research that I was able to find, but then we're going to have an expert in the field that deals with children on a daily basis. They actually will be coming from the Child Protection and Family Services Agency, right? So I'm looking forward to that discussion so they can give us some advice further on how to deal with this. So now the term toxic parent encompasses an extensive range of harmful behaviors, all of which serve to undermine a child's sense of self-worth, stability, and overall mental well-being. A toxic mother or father can be controlling, demanding, and harsh, putting you at high risk for long-term mental and physical health issues well into adulthood. And that's something that we see right now. A lot of the adults now, we know you guys went through some trauma. Even if you never tell me, your actions or your habits sort of indicate that, no man, there was something that probably affected you and you didn't know. And I encourage you guys, when we do find out these things, work on it. Don't just say, boy, that's a mistake. That don't help. No, it don't help you first and foremost, and it don't help nobody around you. So your loved ones, your friends, it don't help nobody, right? So if you realize, all right, I realize that I have exhibited some of these traits that we're going to highlight soon, then look into yourself and say, boy, is it something I did unknowingly? Is it something I did unknowingly? It's now a habit, but can I start making changes? Because nothing happen overnight. We have to start somewhere. And I promise you, if we start making these changes now, we are also investing in a better Jamaica in the future. Right? Because the kids that what we're dealing with now is from poor parenting practices from Wapi Kill Feel or Go, the 90s, the 80s, the 70s. Those are the adults now that we're dealing with, right? So if we can create better adults for the future, then it's a win-win. I'm just saying, right? So, as I said, a toxic mother or father can be controlling, demanding, and harsh, right? Toxic parent traits include deeply disturbing behaviors that can affect a child's mental health at any age. Toxicity can be deceiving because it's not always about obvious and overt abuse. And most people think, say, boy, the parents will tell you where your parts, or the parents will run you on, those obvious ones. But there's a lot of secretive ones, some slight ones that a lot of us don't even realize. I'm gonna remind you about some that we mentioned last week. I want to mention the ones that stood out to me particularly, right? So they always put their feelings first. We mentioned this last week. Parents may believe that their feelings should come first overall, right? Because they're the parent, so you must value what I say first, or you do things in alignment with what suits me because I'm the parent. I have certain rights and you need to abide by it. That's actually a toxic trait because we have feelings too as children, and sometimes the parent is not always right. We've learned that. A lot of adults, sometimes we just not right, sometimes we choose not to be right, and sometimes we think we are until we know better, right? Another one is another one that we mentioned last week, parents that force their children to suppress their own feelings to appease their parents. So everything is about them and their feelings. That's a very toxic trait. So the one in where you probably tell mommy, say, boy, mommy, I can't come church this week. Why me you can't come church? And then they guilt trip you. Yeah. Right? That's toxic. But also parents do it. Yeah. The minute you visit, boy, the boy in a business about me, but they know that's not the truth. They know the love is there. Sure. But them are calling for guilt trip you. And then you feel horrible because you can't do nothing about it. You have work. Yeah. On the weekends they probably have like an errand. So it's not like you don't want to visit, but based on how your schedule look, you try to figure out life. I mean, it's a conversation I've had to have with my parents, Yep. I was like, mommy, boy, may I try to figure out life too, I'm not saying I don't have time for you, but I'm sure you can relate. You were trying to figure out life when I was younger, before me exist, So I may not have the balance right, but that don't mean I'm loving or less, And guilt tripping your kids into that. That's very toxic, right? Carty say, I believe toxic parenting contribute to relationship breakdown in adult life, and that's another part of it. A lot of the issues that we are experiencing in romantic relationships, it's coming from toxic parenting, right? They probably always having to have your way can be one. One where you don't say sorry because your parents don't say sorry. That's another toxic thing that Jamaican parents are known not to apologize. All they do is tell you, say food up on the table, right? Yep. But that's a toxic trait. So that's why we say it's not always obvious. We see that as, that's just Jamaican parents. But when you really look at it, it's not healthy, right? And the parents that overreact, so like a glass drop and all hell break loose, that's toxic. It's a glass. Man, I say you spend money on it because we know say nothing no come free, right? But in the grand scheme of things, it's a glass. But you beat them and boy, this, that's toxic. Yep. It is very toxic. So I just wanted to highlight some of the stuff to point out the things that aren't as obvious, right? So I hope you guys on track with what we're covering so far. So subtle demeanors, actions, and behaviors by a toxic person can harm a child's well-being and development. Toxic parents might use verbal belittlement, emotional manipulation, and or physical intimidation to control their children. So that's another definition that I thought was very important to cover. It basically goes further on what we discussed last week, right? And I think another one that I thought was a very good one that we mentioned last week was when, the parents were like, them say it's in a joke, but I'm not really joking, a serious thing. Boy, if you put on the more weight, you can't open you can't fit through the door. But them laugh about it. And every time, boy, no, you need to eat 2 plates because you need to put on something. Right? And we don't realize it's affecting the children deeper than just your comment. Right? So I want parents to evaluate that. If every time you see them, you talk about that, sometimes the kids eventually don't want to come around you because they already feel insecure about whether they're too slim or them too fat. And then every time I come around you mention my weight, and me I try to ignore it. I mean, I live in my body, so I know it firsthand. But you take every opportunity. You know, that is not a healthy thing. So as I said, sometimes, guys, this toxicity, it can be obvious, and it can also just be very discreet. And one of the things we recommended is that you need to have a conversation with your parents, right? It may not change, it may change, you never know. But if you are a parent or a parent figure to somebody around you, because we all have neighbors, we probably have nieces, we have nephews, so we play a role in a child's life. We probably know a student or two in the area. We need to be cognizant of these things and see if we can start instilling that change. All right, that's my recommendation. So now we're gonna go into types of toxic parents. So guys, if it is that you want to drop some comments, want to drop feedback, any question, anything that you want to add to the conversation, feel free to drop it. Johanna said not to mention the educational part of it and pressure. I hate math to this day. That's another thing. Parents who helping them kids with homework, you don't belittle them. The child already has struggle. You're idiot. Oh, you forget 2 + 2. And you ask about 6 more times before you find a new way to tell me how to work out 2 + 2. 6 times you're gonna say, yeah, idiot, come back. We're not getting no dinner. You're not in a dinner so you get this. Up to now you can't give me a solution for get 2 + 2.
Yeah, some deep.
That's what I'm saying. It's a lot of trauma that we have seen as normal, but it's not normal. Right? And you punish them and this and that. Like, guys, we need to make a change. So as I said, I know it's not gonna happen overnight, but if any of these things connect with you, look into yourself, and you probably not get it right the next time. The next time, probably when homework, you know, them might take too long. You might get frustrated because all of these things, as well as not necessarily the child, it's coming from other factors that's stressing the parents, and then this is just the avenue that it's being. Basically, you that I get it right now, right? It have nothing to do with you. Sometimes it's a rough day at work, and then you come and you say, well, only 2 + 2, and you tell them 6 times, and it's like you're frustrated. But we need to find
single parents,
especially with single parents, because listen, my brother told me say he had my nephew for a weekend by himself, and him said him not know for a weekend, guys, and him said him not know how single parents do it because him nearly mad in a 2 days by himself with his son, right? So it's a lot of pressure, and it's easier said than done to tell the boys to say separate the instances. But guys, we can't be fueling that into our kids, and then we wonder why we have the adults we have in today's society, right? Joanna says sometimes it's not a bookworm, but good with something else. They try to allow them to develop that. So that's something I love that you mentioned, because we're not going to say you're not going to encourage a child to do better, because it may not be their strength now, but you still try with them. But sometimes their talent is elsewhere. So we need to open our minds as well. I think I mentioned this some time ago with a different topic, that usually when it comes to girl children, if you're not doing well, parents go the extra mile, pay for extra class, these tutors, whatever. But once you have a boy pitney and him not do so well, don't worry, you can go learn a trade. A lot of parents do that. They don't put in that much effort because, like, okay, you have an alternative.
I can see your point.
Yeah, a lot of parents, once your son's not do well, you're like, oh, it's fine. You can go to carpenter, you can go to electrician, you can go to mechanic. Yeah. But when you come to your daughters, you put the extra effort to ensure that they get it. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So we need to change some of these mindsets that we have. Cassie said, I've learned so much. The way I interact with my first child is totally different from how I do with the last. And that's something that I recommend, guys, along the way. Yes, this may result in the children feeling like, okay, the other children getting special treatment. Because I've heard the older kids say, boy, I think me couldn't get away with younger sibling I get away with the last one, oh my, and get away with murder. True. I've heard people say that. True. But that's because the parents realize along the way that things can be done better, or they didn't have to be as abrasive or aggressive, or I can have conversations with my child. But you were, sadly to say, you were like the test run. So that's why firstborn usually have like a tougher skin. They're more like parents, because they eventually become parents to the younger children, I should say. Mm-hmm. Right? They're maternal or paternal. They have to look out for them, all of that. So it's just a part of it, and we're always learning. But I always encourage you guys to try and continue learning. You want to say, let them do what they love. Parents can see it from we're very young. I like that. Brandon says sometimes people need to put the politics aside and debate about toxic parenting. These topics are real topics. Real topics. Talk about these topics. They're very important. People need to be basically discussing this, right? And Carty said true. So guys, evaluate yourself, evaluate those around you. I hope that you have friendships where you can actually talk to your friends and they just dismiss you, right? But as I said earlier, we're gonna go into the types of toxic parents. So there are many types of toxic parents. Understanding various toxic parent traits can be the first step in learning how to identify unhealthy behavior your parents might engage in. So the first type, dismissive parents. Carter said, especially my children are 21 years apart, totally different generation. Exactly. You have to adjust with the time as well, right? So I love that you point that out, because I don't think a lot of us factor that in. And we have that more in society now, where the siblings are a lot of years apart. I have a friend, she's in her 30s and her sister is now 6 or 7. So it's happening more often, because you do have the family dynamic changing. You probably have a new partner and you have a child with them, and then the siblings have a vast difference in years, and that's becoming more and more the norm. But you now have to adjust as a parent. 2024 kids different from the 1990s kids, right? So you have to adjust. Brandon said sometimes we need to put up, let me see. Yeah, so you're saying that we need to just put politics aside and talk about the toxic parenting. So I mentioned that the first type that we're discussing for the toxic parent, dismissive. The dismissive parent overlooks or undermines their child's feelings and needs. They create an environment where the child feels undervalued and starts doubting their self-worth or struggling with self-expression. Do you, MV, think that you experience this in any way? Did you have a dismissive parent, or have you been a dismissive parent?
Define dismissive.
They create an environment where the child feels undervalued and starts doubting their self-worth or struggling with self-expression. So even when they want to express themselves, let's say for example, I know you'd have a son, but one of the habits that a lot of fathers do, your son start crying, I'm about, what you about for? Yo, listen, that is suppressing your feelings. You can't express yourself. So next time you want ball, you go hold it, or you're not going to feel safe to cry around your parents.
My mother she never, should I say she was strict? Alright, my grandmother was strict. So my mother's mother was strict. So I believe my mother adopts some of that as the blueprint to parenting,
which is the norm.
Yeah, but so I don't think she was deliberately strict. But I think when she get angry about something, like how our mother used to deal with her, just come out.
Yeah.
But I can say that my mother is more like a free-spirited person. But she grew up Christian and with a strict mother, and that just come out my way. So
without warning.
Yeah. So it's 50-50 with my mother.
Okay.
It's 50-50.
But you wouldn't say she wasn't necessarily dismissive, like whenever you want to express yourself, or let's say you guys were in an argument and you wanted to express your side, would she listen?
No.
Dismissive. So those are signs of most parents are guilty of this. So okay, I would say your mother alone. Most parents, listen, if you even give them one like you want answer, you open your mouth. Yeah, back answer me.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, probably have a question, like what me do, right?
Yeah.
Or you want to understand like what did I do wrong? You told me to do it this way, I did it. Where did I go wrong? You want to ask, but you can't even ask. That's a dismissive parent as well.
Yeah.
So they force you to suppress your feeling, you're undervalued, and then we wonder why these kids can't talk to you. When them go through something and then them don't talk to you, then them do something drastic, they hit upon, but I know some are growing, I know some, me never teach them that, but I'm getting the best. A lot of these things are the things that we don't pay attention to.
No, but you see when growing up, you start pay your own bills, and even though I have a daughter, you start realize how depressing life can be.
Yeah.
Especially if you think about it a particular way. And then And then I realized that certain things pass down through genes, you know.
Yeah.
So if you naturally become easily stressed, that's something that passed down, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So when I realized this with myself, and then I start look at how my mother behaved, I realized that I make excuses for them, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But them did have it rough, man.
Well, you see, that's one of the things that it depends on your perspective. I would say becoming an adult for me made me more. It allowed me to give grace to my parents. And I was more forgiving. Okay. Reason being, as an adult now, I started to understand the struggles, you know? Because as a child, you just see them as superior. Like, them have all the answers. You can't tell no picnics to them parents don't know everything, right? Because they're just superior and they act as such as well, right? So they don't really make a know. So them have weak moments, you know, as a parents, when them a ball, them are going to the room, you know, ever see that, right? So you just see that they have all the answers. But as an adult now, and then maneuvering through this and the pay and the chores and just trying to exist, you know, your health, and you start realizing, all right, I never had it easy. That's what it did for me. So it depends on your perspective. For me, it made me not like I had them up or anything, but it further softened my heart towards them. I was like, you know what, you never get certain things right, but I get it. You never get it right because just like how me I figure it out, you did figure it out. When I was a child, it never looked like you figure it out. It looked like you knew what you were doing. But now I realize that no, we don't know what we're doing. We're all figuring it out together. Right? So you want to say those children become rebellious when you shut them down like that. And that's true. Or they're going to find another ear for to talk to. And you might not necessarily like who they're going to talk to, because some people will use the opportunity to manipulate and use them to do their bidding. So we have to be cautious of that. Carty said that was the norm. Yeah, the whole shutting down and what about, you know, what you're about for. It's such that thing when parents beat you and then ask you what you're about for. You know, that is a very traumatic thing.
Jamaican parents.
It is. Regardless, right? When you really think about it, it's traumatic, you know, because you just inflicted pain on the child.
Yeah, and
the child is reacting to the pain like all of us. Come sure when somebody stop you feel it too, right? And then you can ask them, where about you want me to give something for, that is traumatizing, you know?
Trust issues from early.
But you know, you see, alright, with my daughter. That's what I'm saying. We try to have understanding, you know, because sometimes I automatically react a certain way, you know, and it's because of, you know, my experience.
Yeah, how you were grown, and then also the factors that you experienced growing up.
So it's like it kick in, and then I realize, oh no, I just do what my mother used to do, you know. Yeah. That's
what I'm saying. You know, I get it right, you know, but it's when you catch yourself. You see, if you can catch yourself in it, even if you've done it. But if after the fact, yes, you reflect. That's something I encourage you to reflect. And you can't say, boy, envy, you know, I never deal with that, right?
Yeah.
And then you also are mature enough, because, guys, I chose that word wisely. As parents, I hope you're mature enough to be able to say to your child, you know, so I'm wrong. I'm sorry about that. That is maturity. Yeah. When you think in the mature, when you can't do that, in a prideful, you can't turn to your child and say, you know, sir, make sure you listen to you. And sometimes the kids are, I've seen parents, the child is telling them something and it's the correct thing. Then beat them for it. And then it's like, yeah, beat them because they must show you up. Like, how are you punishing a child for showing up your shortcomings? Right? Like,
embarrassment, right?
It's things that we have to look. It's the embarrassment that you're acting out on, and that is not healthy for the children. You want to say, I'm loving and forgiving, but from afar. So for her, from her perspective, yeah, you're forgiving her, but boy, that's a rough one, because I feel like everybody want the parents there. And I know we don't get to choose our parents, and when you hear people talk about their mother and them, you know, for some people, them father, you know, sometimes we wish we had that. So it's rough, but I get it. Sometimes you have to love you from afar. I've known several people that's what them say. Them say, boy, if them mother call them, them will do something for them, but other than that, them don't communicate, you know? And that's rough. That's rough to push a child to that, you know? Man. And then these same children are adults now, go seeking that in other people and don't even realize.
Yeah.
Don't even realize. So somebody who's like a mother figure, them go all out for them, and probably to you, you're like, hold on, but your neighbor, but because they want the mother figure and this person is somewhat maternal to them. If they're hungry, then carry over a meal, you know? I've seen somebody, I know somebody, he's married, his mom had a falling out, and he basically gave his mother-in-law all the attention. Because he realized after the fact, I'm reasoning about him. So Kim realized that I wanted that motherly affection, and me and my mom never did agree. So I was getting that from my wife's mother. So everything that I do for her.
I have to evaluate myself now.
I'm just, guys, that's what my aim is. My aim is to get you guys to think about what we may have experienced, because I'm telling already, not everybody traumatized. All of we. We just need to evaluate ourselves, to reflect and try to find those trauma incidents or those instances, and then after we acknowledge them, say, yeah, I realize say I'm insecure or I don't trust people because we find the root and then we work on it. That's what I encourage you guys. I'm gonna drop these comments and then we're gonna go to the break. Kati said, I was a very rebellious teenager. Now I understand a lot more when my mom was trying to instill, and yeah, we tend to understand after the fact. And then Brandon says, sometime, yeah man, we need to have more of these discussions. All right, so guys, we're gonna go to the break right now. When you come back, Talk the Ting with Kim continues. We're gonna talk about more types of toxic parents. We'll be right back.